Hello and welcome to the Weekly Woodcast with Dennis and Michael Woodworth. And we have two special guests here today to discuss a topic that I think everyone relates to, or at least has something to do with, and that's taxes. To my right, across the table, is John Swain, the owner of Swain and Associates, a chartered accountant firm here in our local area. John is also a very talented musician in his own right as well, and I'm sure we'll discuss some of those details today. And to my left is Nick Saunders, who is the president and part of a family-owned business that's been, I think, the third generation, Nick? Fourth generation family-owned business in the automobile industry, predominantly through Chrysler Canada, but you've also, right now, you own a master franchise as well as a family. Yep, one of the things I will let you guys know is that when you're talking, move close to the microphone. So you don't have to do it when you're not talking, but when you are, make sure that that microphone is close to you, because if the further away you go, the less you hear, okay? So let's get into taxes. John, you're the expert, obviously. I've often asked myself, where did the tax system come from? Why was it designed? I know there's a common rumor or a common thought that taxes were created after the World War, in World War I, to be able to pay for the war. It's funny, I don't think we've ever paid for that war yet, because we continue to add more and more on top of our taxes every year. So, just from your perspective, where did the tax system come from?
No idea. What you just said sounds about right. I would suspect that probably before the World Wars, we probably financed a lot of public service through possibly imports, exports, all that kind of thing, right, is my guess. No idea, to be honest. I know that certain things like capital gains tax, for example, that came in 1972. Probably as a result of a government program that got introduced and never went away, like so many other taxes that we still are left with. And to pick up on one point you had said, I don't think it's the goal of any government anymore to ever pay back anything.
I know,
right? And I think that we all have just gotten used to the fact that some of these programs will just go on forever. And I don't know what the breaking point is. I feel like there probably is one at some point.
COVID.
Well, sometimes it feels like it.
Sometimes.
Yeah, to be continued. Everybody's complaining about 2020, but I don't know, 2021 might be an interesting year too. So,
Nick, you're a business owner, and you inherited the responsibility from your father in that business, and you take on a major leadership in that company. And just explain to the general public how much time and resources you put into tax remittance, taxation itself on an annual basis through the company.
Well, we, along with myself and a couple other people within the organization, we have two full-time. We've got 2.5 actually in-house administrators that look after our remittance. Plus, we have on retainer a full-size law firm or accounting firm that handle all of our yearly, quarterly issues. So it's one of the largest
components of your business.
Of the business, yeah. Outside of actual infrastructure and inventory, that would be the next biggest resource that we have.
Now I'm going to head over to John, because I've thought about this a lot. I was isolated in Cuba for 12 weeks, so I was alone.
So you were thinking about taxes and remittances?
No, I was thinking about a lot of things, John. I was thinking about a podcast that I wanted to do since I was a kid, a lot of things. But essentially, a company like Nick's invests quite a bit of money on an annual basis to prepare revenue for another company. The CRA is a company in itself.
It's definitely a stakeholder for
right?
sure. Yeah.
And we had this conversation last night and with Michael Graves last week that for many years the federal government would always kind of separate themselves from the CRA. We're not affiliated with them. They're on their own entity. Yeah. But we know, based on what we're seeing right now with the pandemic, with all of the financial payments that are going out, that are being administered through the CRA. You have to apply through the CRA to get any kind of funding. So essentially, they work hand in hand, and that's something that is more transparent now than ever before. But I find it an amazing concept, and I don't know of another industry, including yours, that you would do all of this work, administer it all, send all the money to a company that is profitability for them, and they don't have to spend a dollar for it. We cooperatively agree to do it. And I don't know where that concept ever came from, that we would spend all this money, all this time, all these resources on profitability from our companies, and then essentially give those resources over to the CRA, which then indirectly heads to the federal government. And then when you look at the national deficits that we have, how poorly it's being managed, why shouldn't we question it?
We should. We should always question our government officials. Absolutely. I made no.
I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Made
know.
no.
No bones about it.
Well, and I certainly didn't necessarily go out on behalf of my company. It's important that
Right.
our clients and small business understand that we're here to help people maneuver through the complexity of the tax system. It's a very complex system. However, a few years ago now, I felt the current government brought in some tax changes, that didn't support the trials and tribulations of small business owners, right? And as everybody knows, my company is passionate, deeply passionate,
Very passionate.
and it's more, Nick, you know this too. I mean, what small business owners do every day should be absolutely celebrated and nurtured and supported, because it's hard, right? It's really hard. And most of the small business owners I know are extremely talented, have a lot of endurance. They keep getting back up. They keep getting hit. They keep getting back up. They keep doing this thing. And I can assure you they're not doing it for money, because arguably we could probably go make a lot more money but we go at this, every day. And so it bothered me quite a bit. I was very vocal about it, at least personally vocal about the tax changes. We've settled into them. We're learning to live with them. There's not much you can do. And when it went down, there wasn't very much consultation with the private sector, or after the fact there might have been, but it's still it wasn't something that really made me feel like small business owners are the backbone, that recognizes the backbone of the Canadian economy.
Well, that's been sold to us for a long time.
Yeah.
However, when it comes to it, Nick, you tend not to believe it sometimes, because of the amount of accountability that's laid on us from a taxation standpoint. We are forced to be so accountable. I mean, we had a conversation one time about how a length of an audit that your company went through, and that's regular for a lot of companies across the country, because the CRA, is always inquisitive, and they think that we're guilty before we're innocent in a lot of cases, and it puts a lot of stress on us in regards to man hours and just administration. It's just an enormous amount of administration that goes into the tax system. And Ronald Reagan in 1980, he was interviewed by Johnny Carson, part of that isolation that I was down there, John. And Ronald Reagan talked about there needs to be a flat tax rate. Then it needs to be more simplified. Why do we make it so complex? And I think the consensus here, we could all agree that it's complex because it's built for a very small segment of society. They make it complex that it's difficult to understand, and that the billionaire class of the world really gets to take advantage of a lot of those taxation situations, and they lobby for them in a lot of cases, both here and in other countries. So it's a challenging situation. And how do you deal with that? We use a word in the Caribbean called tolerate. We tolerate it. There's a lot of things that happen in the country that I live in half of the time, is they tolerate a lot of things, but does it make it right? just because we tolerate it? I don't know. How do you feel about it, Nick?
You know, without critique and without holding governments to account, we let it go further and further down the hole. I mean, you know, I don't want to get on the whole wealth distribution as opposed to
keep putting that microphone right close to you.
As opposed to wealth creation. But you know, small businesses create the wealth. No, I mean, small businesses, I mean, we're there to, like I say, create the wealth. And not just for us, but for all of our staff, all of our employees who all remit their own taxes. But I look back on say 2019, for example, we went through 5 separate audits with our company in 2019. Just nothing was found. It was all routine. But in the industry that I'm in, we sell big ticket items. And when your HST remittance from 1 month to the next,
it dramatically changes.
There's a huge
dramatically.
We're a very seasonal business, and that triggers you know, some sort of little flag in the in CRA, and you get the phone call, and they want to see this, and this. But I mean, then there's more resources that I have to dedicate out of my company to support or to send those documents that they're requesting, and you don't have a choice. You either do it or you pay for it. So you're paying for it one way or the other, whether you're dedicating resources internally or whether you're paying fines for not doing what they've asked you to do. So it's like I said before, it takes so much of your effort in a small business. And, you know, thankfully we have a large enough company that we do have those resources in-house.
But many don't.
But that's the thing. There's so many owner-operators out there that are just trying to get through a day-to-day grind. And then at nighttime, they have to go and figure out what they need to do for tax remittance and deductions and all of that. And it is very, very overwhelming for someone that wants to open up their own business, because it is just a huge gamut to try to maneuver through. And you've got guys like John to help out, but you know, guys like John they're not on every street corner.
No, they're not.
You know, you have to have
Thank God for that.
But you have to have a specialized,
Give yourself some credit, man.
a specialized knowledge of the tax code for these people, because it varies greatly between large corporations and small business. Unfortunately, the how can I put this? The level of knowledge that is required just isn't out there, like I say, on every street corner. So thankfully, we've got John in the air that can handle a lot of that. But at some point, he needs to go home at the end of the day too.
Well, that's the truth. And you think about it, John, and because you're very resourceful and innovative in what you do, even in the very conservative industry that you're in, you kind of take I call your other personality, and you bring your other personality into an industry that really has a lot of conservative people, which I really applaud you for, because it makes you very unique. And what frustrates me is that, like, my father's been self-employed since I was a young boy, and he didn't have the resources from the contracts to be able to hire people to do certain things, so he had to do it himself. Now, was he diligent at doing it? Hell yeah. I mean, I've never seen a more organized man in my life. But like you said, it took up an enormous amount of time in his schedule. While I would be watching the Blue Jays, he would be in the office doing manual tax calculations or manual remittances until I taught him how to use a computer. And even then, I led him into using QuickBooks, or he used actually simply accounting. Learned how to use it effectively enough to actually organize things so he could work with the firm, bring the costs of his preparation down from about 5% of his budget to under 1%, which was good on a gross perspective. But still, it was a lot of time invested in to do that. And a lot of creative people don't have the knowledge base, John. So musicians, because your other life, which I think I said earlier in the podcast before we get on air, I'm just going to let our listeners know that, you know, John is one of the most foremost tax experts that I know in my whole life, and Nick is, you know, in a family business. But if I was to choose what those guys would have wanted to be when they grew up, John would be the lead singer of Bon Jovi or another band like that. Or he would have his own band name, obviously, but he'd be all over the world singing rock songs. And Nick would be probably right now just retiring from the Blue Jays after a 20-year career if they actually did what they wanted to do.
I'd probably get back into coaching.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea after having a 20-year career in the pros.
That's right.
So, when you look at the amount of man hours it takes to do those kind of things, what do you suggest, John, for small business owners to do?
Well, I'm glad y'all brought this up because it is actually a wonderful time to be addressing some of these concerns because of the technology that is out there. Now, it's only just beginning, but it is even now is super powerful. You mentioned a couple of different accounting software packages. The QuickBooks Online right now is absolutely
fantastic.
They've just really blasted off in the last couple of years. Some of the functionality of this stuff between, connecting your bank feeds right to the software, technology where you can, for your listeners, I'm holding up my phone right now, but you take pictures.
Oh, they're seeing you on video.
Yep. You're taking pictures, of invoices, receipts. And I'm, obviously somebody like Nick, you do need to support, an actual department. But most of the folks that I deal with, 80% of the folks I deal with, like you said, at the end of the day, they got to go home and do this bookkeeping. Super easy. You take pictures of your invoices, your receipts. You throw them out. It saves it in the cloud. It does the journal entries for you. You just need to go in and make sure the computer made the right decision. But the computers are learning too. We've got the artificial intelligence is learning. Which is some people find that very scary.
It's uncomfortable.
Yep.
It's another podcast.
Yeah. If you think that's the only way in which Big Brother's in your life,
that's another podcast.
Yeah. But these are our firm predominantly our value proposition is we coach small business owners. In addition to getting their taxes done, we actually want to help them increase profitability, increase the value of the businesses. It is so powerful in with a cloud-based system. I get on the phone with a client. Nick's not my client, by the way. Full disclosure.
That could be I don't know what.
What's with that, Nick? But
we all went to school together, man. Come on.
But Nick calls me and says, I just wondering, I'm wondering about something, and I just sec, Nick. I pull up his profile and we're looking at his stuff together in real time and having good meaningful discussions. So I say that because your listeners, your viewers, if you're not thinking about the innovations out there in the bookkeeping, you're doing way too much work. Yeah. And if you're spending time doing admin, we're not going to completely eliminate admin. But if you're spending all this time ripping your hair over admin, I suggest either get somebody in your life that can take better care of you so that you can do what it is that you're best at doing. You'll bring more value to your organization, right? And streamlining so that you're adding value all the time. Remember, bookkeeping, accounting, tax, all remittances, all that crap, it's all enablers. These are things we have to do to not go to jail. They do nothing to add value to your business.
No.
Right? Making good decisions on the numbers, that adds value, right? Knowing when I'm either going off the rails or if I'm on the rails, how do I stay on the rails? Those are value add decisions, and that's good up-to-date bookkeeping using all the latest innovations is the way to do it.
So let's talk about our governments and how, Nick, if we were talking baseball, you always evaluate the performance of an organization based on the result. The process is a big part of it. The process is everything, but the result is really what, last night, the Dodgers won the World Series. The result was there. The last 3 or 4 years, the result wasn't there in the end, and they were criticized for it in a lot of cases. So, Michael, pull up on the screen what the national deficit is for the country of Canada, the Canadian government. So, while Michael's doing that, what I'm concerned about as a taxpayer, as a Canadian citizen in my 5th decade, is we are forced to be so accountable as entrepreneurs and as taxpaying citizens, not just business people, but everyone. why don't we force that level of accountability on the people that we elect and pay to do those jobs for us? I cannot comprehend. And then what happens is someone gets, elected for a 4-year term or an 8-year term, whatever the case may be, and then they leave the political life. Then they just wash their hands. It's over. It has nothing to do with me anymore kind of attitude. When you're in this kind of position and you look at the kind of numbers,
We have two different ones. The top kind of says 19.8 billion.
so the 2019 Canadian federal budget was presented 19th of March. Total projected revenue of $338 billion, expenditures of $355, resulting in a projected deficit of $19.8 billion in 1 year, John.
And that would have been, they haven't tabled a budget in over a year though.
Yeah, exactly. But I want to know what our total deficit is right now.
I'm saying this one right here.
The resulting deficit was $984 billion, a little over 4.5% of the gross domestic product, compared to a $779 billion in the previous year. Wow. So, I mean, you have to, and this will come on your, and Nick, in your case too, you guys have to spend money to make money. But if every year you're in business, you had a large deficit, how many years before they come knocking on your door?
It wouldn't be very long.
Right, John? So just, from your perspective.
Yeah, those are big numbers.
Those are big numbers.
But they're almost, you can't even get your head around those numbers.
They're just numbers on a page when you're reading it.
Bezos might understand one or few of them, but
Yeah, and they're just stifling, but especially when we hear our southern neighbors too, like the numbers they're throwing out is some of these numbers I didn't even know that those numbers exist. I thought they were just
imaginary
stuff
numbers
that kids would
that
say.
you never get to. Kind of like we never get to the year 2000.
I'm not sure if we'll get to 2021, but I know. This Saturday's Friday or Saturday is Halloween.
Saturday.
So Saturday we've got a blue moon, full moon, time change.
I know.
I don't think we're getting past Halloween, baby.
I tell you, they say at the end of the year, it's just going to go 11:59:60, 11:59:61,
Yeah.
11:59:60.
Yeah, exactly.
But we thought that in 2000, right, guys? We thought our software was going to
big old
crash.
Y2K. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the Y2K crash, right?
I had my first drink of alcohol.
Did you? I might have had my fifth that night. I actually got engaged. I got engaged 1999 at about 11:59.
That was awesome.
Got engaged because
awesome.
I figured if the whole world's going to end, I'd like at least her to know that I
Yes
was
or no?
committed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So get to that accountability. Why aren't we forcing more accountability onto our government to do that? I mean, it bewilders me that we don't have some form of organization in our country of intelligent, responsible, diversified people that collectively work together.
Yeah, if you don't mind, if I can
Help yourself, yeah.
I think people generally have forgotten the duty that each one of us have in this country.
I agree.
And it's not just to get out and vote. Everybody says, "Oh, get out and vote," because, well, yeah, you should get out and vote, but it's a duty that each one of us as Canadian citizens have to actually understand what is going on, and that's a cultural thing.
Yes.
Right. That begins even possibly at home, in school. So yeah, like we can ask the question, well, why isn't there more? My question is what happened to the generation, say after World War II, when our brothers and fathers all went off to fight and lost their lives. Right. And people didn't take for granted freedom and didn't take for granted understanding what's going on with the government. What was our voter turnout last election?
Oh, it was low.
Okay.
It was low.
Right. And I know,
Pull it up, Michael. See what the voter turnout
there's a
was.
pile of people I talk to that they
Can't be bothered.
They don't vote, and I ask them, well, why not?
They disengage.
Well, they'll say, well, the politicians are all crooks.
That's not true.
Well, the thing is what do you even know about their policies? Before we talk about what do you know about their policies? Because if you don't know what each party's policy is,
they vote for the best looking guy.
And
this is it.
That's one of the biggest problems. People are uninformed, and they have no interest in becoming informed. And all they want to do is regurgitate what they've heard on Facebook and on Twitter.
Right.
Oh, man.
I mean, how many people actually sit down and watch Question Period? How many people actually sit there and watch a House of Commons proceeding or visit your provincial legislature to see what is taking place when government is sitting? That's how you formulate your own opinions and your own ideologies. Don't listen to what other people have to say.
Well, I think
you got to form them for yourself.
If you look at education, because we all graduated from the same school, so the education system was designed in the industrial age, right? I mean, the schools are even built. You look at the time that we go to school; it's similar to what our work day would be, right? So, and look at the subjects that we're studying. We're studying a lot of the same subjects now that we studied when in the 1950s and 60s.
Yeah.
Why haven't we evolved? There's countries in the world. Sweden is one of them. Finland's another one that leads the way in that the way they educate their students are so dramatically different now than ever before. Why don't the political science was a subject, but really, like, why don't kids learn about how the country operates economically? Why don't they learn about, tax remittance so that when they get their first paycheck, they know that there's, we all collectively invest into employment insurance and that, your CPP contributions goes towards your future pension if we're lucky enough to get it. Those kind of concepts should be learned at an age where you're aware of it. I just don't understand.
It's funny because, we have kids similar age,
Yeah,
and I've got a 17-year-old right now that constantly a lot of what comes back is, Dad, like, you're assuming I know this stuff, like how to open a bank account, like how to, like, budgeting money, taxes, like
Writing a check.
Yeah, writing a check. I mean,
what's a check?
Right? Like, yeah, a check.
Who writes a check anymore?
Right? And
really?
And
who writes a check?
True.
But they got a point. I mean, like, guys, like I took trigonometry. Like, have you ever? I mean, algebra. That's a great subject. Algebra's a good one. Okay, I can say that as an accountant. Take algebra. Yep. Let's teach our kids how to do a tax return. Why not? Grade 10, start learning budgeting. Like, why did we get rid of home economics?
Oh, I was just you read my mind,
right.
John.
I learned, there's recipes
Industrial
I learned.
arts with Carl Seelig.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yep.
The kids in our school today, they wouldn't have had to cut a board on any type of apparatus at all. They wouldn't have a clue.
Yeah.
Not a clue. They YouTube it.
Well, if we're going down...
Yeah, that's true. They got the YouTube.
If we're going down the educational rabbit hole, technical trades.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, there is
your industry.
And there's a shortage.
Industry.
There is a serious shortage of technical trades.
Absolutely.
I mean, what a great opportunity for a young man or woman to really make themselves a career. For example, collision work. There's one course left in all of Nova Scotia.
Wow.
For auto body apprentice. It's literally a dying...
and
dying breed.
And on that note, I would encourage small business owners that are having a shortage, like, call your Nova Scotia Community College, like, call them and complain. I do it all the time. Mm-hmm. I call I forget her name, but I call her. I got her in speed dial. Yeah, Denise. Yeah. And great. And Denise has been so supportive. But it's like, we need more accounting technicians. Like, let's get that ramped up. And of course, I'm going all the time. Like, my clients have severe shortages. Like, can we get some of those things in place and just
Absolutely.
So be a squeaky wheel there, peeps.
But now, are students aware of the opportunities that are out there, or do they just get pushed through the system and you got to go to university?
Well,
you got to go to university.
Who did we have in school? We had a guidance counselor. What's their job? Right. Annette Martin was our guidance counselor, and Annette was a really great gal. Loved her to death. Spent a lot of time with her when I was president of student council. But really, that's what you want to do, is you want to guide people in a direction towards their passions. mine was radio broadcasting and television broadcasting. I wanted to be a sports broadcaster. But we have 2 kids here that live in our home that are community college students. One is in culinary, and the other one's in industrial mechanic. So we need those types of people in society, and we need to have that part of our economy flourish more. And it creates a more diversified, a more productive economy across our country. I see it all the time, like I said, in the other country that I spend time in Cuba, that the amount of education that they put into practical trades is unbelievable, like unbelievable. And I just think we need to do more of that, but in a more innovative way, kind of like, John, what you're doing with your firm, doing it in a way that's just not the same like it's always been. And we need people that are going to be innovative and creative to create a new form of education that really is a new standard of excellence in the field, so that our kids can grow into society being as productive or even more productive than we were. I think we always aspire to have our kids be more productive than we are and live a better life. Well, to do that, we have to give them the vehicles to do so.
And what happens when they become trained and start great careers? They pay more taxes.
They do. They do.
Which
they're less dependent on the other part of society where we have social systems in place. And John, you can dig into this for us a little bit, is that part of our taxes looks after our people that maybe have challenges in gaining employment or even in a career, trying to find a career. Because there was one of the books I read last year is Job, Career, Purpose. And really, I've been fortunate enough, and many of you guys have been as well, that you go through the job part of your life, then you go into the career part of your life. If you can get to the purpose part of your life, then you're fortunate. It's not always easy, but it's something that you don't count the hours anymore. Yeah. So, comment on just really our social systems and what we do.
Well, and never before have we seen such a dynamic contrast between, upper and lower, and so I don't know about you guys, but I truly, we've got our problems, but I don't think I've ever been more proud to be a Canadian. We got a lot of wonderful things here. Yes, we pay for them, but, great healthcare, just a great culture. Yep. We do take care of our lower income seniors through the old age supplement, as well as extremely lower end income through the guaranteed income supplement, and of course, folks that pay into the CPP, which is most of us. That's a decent pension plan. So between healthcare, the OAS, the CPP, the GIS, it's not too bad.
Our hospitals,
our roads, exactly.
Our law enforcement,
yeah,
those are all part of our taxes. And I have no problem volunteering my contributions for those types of things. I just the accountability aspect of it, and I have no problem collectively investing into our total product. When we watch the Olympics, we're all Canadians. When we watch Team Canada's hockey team, we're all on the same team. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we individualize ourselves too much as a nation, and we don't look at taking care of everyone. We all like to wear the jersey when it's, opportunistic. But really, we need to wear the jersey all the time.
And a lot of that, what John said, goes back to being uninformed. Like, can our systems be better? Oh, of course they can. Can our healthcare be better? Can our public education be better? Can our support of low-income families be better? It all can be. But we sometimes take for granted how good we actually do have it here in Canada.
Oh, I see it, bud.
There are some bad situations. But, travel the world. We're in a very lucky country. We are very fortunate to be where we are. And, a lot of that goes back to people just not understanding what the alternative is. Like we talked about soldiers going off to war. They had a purpose when they came back. They saw what the alternative is for the lucky few that did come back. And to say that our country's broken and that the systems don't work is false. The systems work. They may not be the greatest. There always can be improvement. You can always improve yourself. but we have it a heck of a lot better than a good chunk of the people around this globe.
Well, just recently we were ranked. I think if you look up the ranked the best place to live in the world, Michael, I think Canada's ranked 1, and we're always compared to the United States. I don't know why, John, but why does every country or every nation compare themselves to the United States?
I don't know why anymore.
'Cause that's just nothing but chaos, man.
Yeah, I'm not sure we are anymore.
Right there, quality of life rankings. Canada number 1.
Where the United States is on this list, though.
Yeah.
Well, you have to scroll a long ways, Michael.
So,
Like Sweden's really big. I love their school system.
Yeah.
oh
Absolutely.
yeah. No, the Nordic European states have there's some incredible things going on over there.
Absolutely. A lot of innovation.
Oh yeah, I mean their work days are shorter. They're
kidding.
more productive. It's just we should. I think we should really look to some of those countries to
Load more, Michael. We'll have to load for about 50 or 60 or 70 different loads.
No, I
It's not a
think
mystery to me why all of these are European.
yeah.
It's all.
So I mean, you look at it, and
But that's amazing. Like
Isn't
Canada. Yeah.
we're first.
Yep.
There's United
Now, I
States.
don't know what list that is, but I like it.
15.
I like it. And Dennis, I mean, I can only imagine you you spent quite a bit of time in Cuba. For you to come back here, seeing, what the people and
Well, I will say there are some very good systems down there. Their medical system, their employees, because they're all government employees. So their medical system is
I've heard that,
unbelievable. Unbelievable. Now their facilities are dated. I mean, and it's prevalent when you walk into a hospital and you see what they have access to and what they can work with. It's almost like going back in the 1940s or 50s and trying to build a house today, right? If I put that in perspective, or vehicles from the 1940s and 50s. And then you don't have the tools to actually repair the vehicles. That's the hard part in Cuba.
Is that more sanctions that they cannot acquire supplies? Or
Well, the biggest country in the world that they should trade with is the United States because they're 90 miles away from them, but it's zero. There's zero.
Yeah.
So what they have to do, you think about 11 million people, all their incomes, most of their income, not all of them, but literally most of them come from the government. And the average $30, $40 a month. Well, someone says, that's no big deal. Well, that's, $300 million a month. So you have to, if you look at the economy, you have to generate in import to generate outside revenue, which is tourism. Their doctors go abroad. So when for example, when the pandemic hit, they sent doctors to Italy and Spain to help. And then in return, they actually get credits from that country. They get credits, and they usually use credits to get product shipped to the country so that their citizens can buy the shampoo, cleaning supplies, and things like that. I've learned so much in the time that I've been there. There's no perfect state. If you look at Bernie Sanders in the United States, who I think is the most progressive politician in the United States. Elizabeth Warren's close, but Bernie's very progressive. And in the United States, they don't want what we have. They don't want what we have. They don't want to pay for it. They want to individualize each family and make them responsible. But John, Nick, your daughter gets sick, very ill, and it's going to cost you $2 or $3 million. Where do you get that money?
Well, it just goes back to the old saying, it takes a village to
And that's
to
why
raise a child.
Canada is, I think if we all collectively together invest into helping people that go through traumatic situations in their lives, just in that situation alone. And when you see someone go to the hospital and is looked after by our physicians and our hospital, our nurses, and then you see that they recover, that's a collective win for all of us.
You can't pay money for that.
Well, how much is it worth?
That's
You ask a mother or father
priceless.
how much that's worth. And in the United States, it's the opposite. They literally lose their whole lives economically for their children. And who wouldn't do that? I would in a heartbeat, right?
Yeah.
So it's, you can say what you like. We do pay more. more than our fair share.
You know, and I think that the moral of all of this, you know, this talk is don't take that for granted. Like, we need to not take that for granted. And so, you know, I know it can be boring to find out what the different policies of the different parties are, but, you know, it starts individually. We have to treat it like a duty and learn, you know, what is going on so that we pick the right representatives, hold them accountable, right? And that's how it starts. I mean, there's no, I really don't think adding another big brother to the you know, another association to look like it culturally. And so that'll take time, but parents talking to their kids, making them know, you know, well, what do the Liberals have in their policies? What do the PCs have? What do the NDP have? You know, how does that speak to you? Like obviously we don't want to tell our children who to vote for, but we want to help them to be thinking through what values that.
Absolutely. And the one thing that, you know, I would encourage families to do is to find someone in your family that actually is passionate about politics, and designate them to become the individual in the family that becomes knowledgeable on the subject, and then share it at the dinner table.
Yeah.
Share it on a Saturday evening. I know it sounds boring, but the bottom line is that there's a lot of conversation pieces in government that you didn't know about before that really you can take advantage of.
Yeah.
We just talk about the medical system. We talk about our roads, and we talk about a lot of other things that we have access to. Somebody in your household that takes on that responsibility that can collectively inform the rest of the family would be a huge advantage.
Making sure that, you know, as a family, now this is easier said than done. I get it, but being able to have a dialogue where people have different points of view.
Absolutely.
And that's all right. And that's,
it's
I
healthy.
say this because if some of my daughters see into this, they might be loud going, "Oh yeah, what a hypocrite." But anyway, I'm working on it, peeps. But yeah, I mean, you know.
One other thing, though, John, there's nothing wrong, in my opinion, of having a bipartisan point of view.
Yeah,
I mean,
I agree.
You know, you can align the majority of your theories with one political party, but don't close the door on the other ones.
I agree.
Right.
Because it's good to have a diversified thought.
Well, if we look at, because we're passionate about sports, or even in the music world, you have 5 people in a band. They don't always agree.
Yeah.
Fleetwood Mac, look at that. I mean, like, that tells you right there, right?
46 members,
right? I mean, like, you don't always agree, and even in an organization in sports, you don't always agree on everything. So I believe, and this is just my belief, is that a minority government is a more accountable government. When you get to a majority government, we looked this up last night. Actually, the Liberal Party was formed on July 1st, 1867. Now, what was that? What was that year?
It was Confederation.
Confederation, man. They formed the Liberal Party the same day as Confederation. And then way before us, really what it was is that people in business would contribute to those political parties and then get influence from those parties. Hey, we got you in. Now you're helping us out. And it still exists today. I mean, we're not going to put our head underneath the carpet and go, you know, it doesn't happen. It happens.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, but I think before the internet ever existed, a lot of people got away with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, definitely.
You know, and that's why I agree with you, Nick, is bipartisan is nothing wrong with that at all. Nothing wrong with that.
Well, and you know, and unfortunately, like, all we as a society see now is sort of the polarization of you know, political figures and truths and untruths and you know, name calling when somebody opposes a view, and
especially with social media today.
Yeah, and look, you know, that's definitely happened to the south of the border, but it all rubs off, right? It rubs off, and it's all right. Like, lots of different perspectives, a melting pot of ideas to bring about a better society.
Well, we don't have a king. We still have a queen, I guess, over in England that we do. Canada does have a queen, right? When we used to go to school, we used to sing "God Save Our Queen" every day, right? So,
who had Mrs. Romke? That might have been before.
Eva Romke. My father did.
Yeah. Do you even have Mrs. Romke?
No, I did not. But I spent a lot of time with Eva Romke up on Empire Street.
Yeah, who just passed away.
I know.
Yeah.
What an incredible,
she was my
tough
favorite
teacher.
Yeah, and you know what? Right up until she died, I'd still go visit her up on Empire Street.
She's a great lady.
But I'll never forget. Every morning we'd pledge allegiance to the Queen.
That's the truth.
We would say the Lord's Prayer.
I know.
Imagine all that today. And then she would walk around the room to make sure that all our nails were.
Truth.
Which, if she saw my nails right now, I'd be in trouble.
Time to go to work. Yeah.
But you know, times have changed. Holy
I mean,
cow.
they had Wayne Mossman was one of our
Yeah,
teachers. Wayne
Wayne,
used to kick the field goals with the garbage cans and smash those ruler, meter sticks. Boom, he'd smash those. You'd be scared to death.
Yeah.
Those days are long gone.
Yeah.
Glenn Matthews was another
Glenn
one who used
Matthews.
to break rulers, man. He
Yep.
just, But going to our educators, we had some really good people.
Yeah.
But I think innovation, we need to get more innovative. We need to get more creative, and we need that the John Swain approach to education comparing to what you do in the accounting world, because it's necessary. We need to evolve, and it's time. We have to stop relying on government. We need to start relying more on ourselves, and then making them more accountable. Having an organized group of people in this country saying, we're going to force accountability on you guys because it's necessary. Having said that, we talked about it. When you look at the rankings in the world, we're not doing too shabby of a job.
Certainly by that list, that's
So the glass half full, half empty, right?
So let's just scroll up to the voter turnout, and like that graph right at the top. See, like that. If you're trending, if you average that out, that's trending down.
Yeah, it's
Meanwhile,
trending
our lifestyles are,
That's because I don't think things have gotten bad enough that
Right.
people are
I
just
agree.
You
Right.
see the population.
yep,
down
just
here.
going along.
Well, the more Band-Aids you put on society, the quieter they become.
That's right.
And I think today, right now, with what's going on, which I never thought in our lifetime that we'd be sitting together like this in a time where it's so dramatically different that a virus could slow down the world. Not just a community, not a country. SARS, I remember the SARS concert. I watched it when I was in Cuba, in Toronto, right, with the Rolling Stones and all, the Blue Rodeos of the world. AC/DC was there. I tried to look back at, when that virus was prevalent in our society. So different. Like this one hit everybody.
Yep.
This was the atom bomb that just hit everyone in the world.
yeah.
Can we figure out what happened and why? I said this last night. It's almost like what the Joker said when John Kerry was in Batman. It's a riddle wrapped up in an enigma.
Yeah.
And sometimes it fills up too much space in your head. Yeah. We have so much stuff in our head. We got to clear our heads, and we got to focus on the new direction that we can come up with solutions. And people like you guys are a big part of that. And we go back, we're talking federal and provincial politics, but at the municipal level, as a town where we live, we've done pretty darn good over the last little while. I mean, our mayor, David Mitchell, and the new councilors that were just elected in last week, we've got some tall tasks ahead of us, but I think we're chopping wood really well in this community. And this
I'm real proud of the town, yeah.
this tiny little dot, on the planet has done not too shabby.
Well, there's a good wave of energy I feel in Bridgewater.
There is.
And you're starting to see it. Like I think our main street's starting to look nice. It all takes time. It all takes time, but you get a couple of players in the mix that want to do better, and then pretty soon peer pressure creeps in, which is a wonderfully powerful tool.
No question.
And just good things happen. So now I'm
And it all starts with a vision.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
look at the mayor and the council. They had a vision, and it doesn't happen overnight, but there is progress. I mean, we're soon going to be a destination. Main Street is soon going to be a destination on the South Shore, more so than it ever was before.
Yeah, I think so.
And it's very, very encouraging.
Yeah.
The one of the things for me is that I always say if you have success, so if you look at sports, there's always, like in the NFL or Major League Baseball, the NBA, especially the NBA right now, there's a new way of doing things in the NBA. Mm-hmm. Back in the day when it was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and those guys, Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain, it was the big man. Shaquille O'Neal was probably the most recent one you talk about. Now the game has changed. And I think it's trending back into the big man type, especially after what just happened with the Lakers. But what I'm trying to get to, the point I'm trying to get to is model success. And there's trends that you follow because you see success from it. And when you model success, then you duplicate it, you know, again and again and again. Now, geographic regions, but a lot of the things that Michael Graves, who was an 8-year counselor who was here last week, a lot of the things that Michael talked about was incredible. Just the little things that are being done in society that people don't hear about every day. Yeah. And then they go home and complain, right? Mm-hmm. I think if we look at the glass half full rather than half empty, I think we're doing all right. And we do okay here. Provincially, we've done, well, the best in the world. In this pandemic, the province of Nova Scotia has done the best in the world. And I have told people in Cuba, Dominican Republic, this is the place in the world to live safely with the COVID virus.
I mean, how great is that?
It's pretty awesome.
Number one.
Yeah, number one. We made headlines all over the world, apparently.
Yeah, not number 20, not number 30, one.
Yeah.
You know,
and we're still going strong.
Still going
well,
strong.
And you know, it's funny because I've had lots of discussions like, why? Like, how did we end up here? And I think culturally, we're used to, you know, being in the Atlantic provinces. We're used to a little more stability. You know, we're less populated, more rural. We never see the booms as much as the rest of Canada, but we don't necessarily see all the lows either. We just sort of, you know. And I think
we also have this big body of water around us, John.
Right.
That protects the whole. We have one little door
That's right.
that connects to New Brunswick and says that you're allowed in or you're not.
Yeah.
And that's similar to Cuba because Cuba's had very few cases of COVID as well. Right. And when they do, the military hospitals shut it right down. Yeah. So it's very safe. And that's why, you know, in one of my industries in business, I wanted to work with creating a bubble here, going to like a place like Holguin.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is that going to happen?
Yeah.
It's going to happen. Cuba.
I saw that on there.
Yeah, it's going to happen because then there's no quarantine then, right? Like there's no 14-day quarantine. And the office in Toronto is working with the federal government right now because it makes the most logical sense in the world because we know that if we let traditionally people that travel, which they're going to travel, when you get to January, February, and March, and April, people are going to be like, enough's enough. Like, so... And there's going to be a percentage of those people that are not going to isolate. That's just the way statistics work, right?
Yep.
This ensures that 100%, 100%, we're following the best policy possible. And as a province, if the federal government says no, we're not going to do that, we should put pressure on the federal government to let Nova Scotia do that. Because we are the standard.
We should get some kind of reward for being number one, right?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. You know, so
well, and you know, we're not like. The idea wasn't necessarily to eliminate COVID-19 at all. It's just to keep that wave down so that we don't overwhelm the system. And we jumped on it culturally as a people. We just jumped on that, and so it wasn't that hard. Stay 6 feet away, wear the masks, wash your hands, you know, isolate if you travel. Like none of this stuff has been that hard.
Really,
you know, like
you got to get up in the morning. Right, you there's an option for you to shower too.
Right,
but after a while, if you choose not to shower day after day, you're probably going to have a different virus.
Right. Yeah,
Right. So I mean, a mask should be no big deal.
No,
it really. And in the beginning, I was always Glenn was here last night. He's a no mask guy, and I'm like, you're not protecting yourself; you're protecting others, which means that you have empathy. Mm-hmm. And I think as Canadians, especially Nova Scotians or Newfoundlanders are the same way because that we have a lot of empathy in the world.
Well, you know, we're hospitable. I can't say it. Hospitable.
We're hospitable. People. We are. I mean, when you look at the Swiss Air crash,
right?
When the Swiss Air crash happened, right. Look at what happened in 9/11.
Yeah.
All those planes landed
right in Newfoundland.
And they looked after everybody. It just.
It's in our blood.
It is.
We want to.
And you know the whole mask debate. You know what? It's a small inconvenience.
No kidding. We have a lot of inconveniences in our world.
Yes. If that is the worst thing that's going to ruin your day, you might know. Exactly. You might want to reevaluate what you're doing.
Yeah, violent agreement. Yeah.
Especially if it's close to home.
That's right.
If it's one of our parents,
mm-hmm. That's
right? It was Peter.
Yep.
It's Jerry. You know. If it hits close to home, then you'd say, why didn't I? Mm-hmm. Right? I think sometimes we separate ourselves that it won't happen to us.
And unfortunately, with this, hindsight's not 20/20.
Oh, no, it's not.
you have to have some foresight in this situation.
You have to, yeah, you gotta.
Absolutely. I mean, I just, it's about being part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Yeah,
it really is. And I mean, taxes fund the things. Think about how many people that have been out of work have lost their businesses. Restaurant owners, the travel industry. Now, I don't own one company, but if I only owned an agency, that was my sole source of income.
Yep.
It'd be over.
You'd be packing up shop.
Yeah.
It's over. And there's a lot of people out there that's all they did. Yeah. So the government has done more than other countries have. I mean, I will give the federal government some kudos that, we've rolled out the presses and started printing money like we've never seen before.
Yeah.
In fact, in most cases, they didn't print anything because it's all just digital now. So, I mean, but
they wrote code.
Exactly. Right.
Thousands.
But there's a lot of people that have been looked after. I just hope they don't get too lazy and just take it,
Well, put it this way, I think what your thought was going to be like people get lazy and take advantage of the programs and don't stay productive, and this is the message that I do. First of all, get out to small business owners is that the Canadian Emergency Wage Subsidy is still alive.
Yes, it is.
It's open to a broader range of small business owners. The subsidy isn't necessarily, but can be as high or higher, but isn't necessarily as high as the 75%. But people should still be talking to their accountants to run the numbers. Some of these, calculations can surprise you that you might actually qualify for a little bit of subsidy. Now, some of the sentiment I've gotten from clients before is, I'm surviving. I don't want to take advantage. Here, believe it or not, a lot of small business owners, they'll say, no, I don't want to take advantage. I'm doing all right. And I look at everybody else. But here's the thing. When we talk about foresight, we don't yet know the effect. We're seeing effects, but we don't know the final effect that this pandemic is going to have on Canadian small business, right? Or even just the Canadian economy as a whole. I think possibly the worst is still yet to come economically.
I agree.
And so
we're heading into winter.
Right.
I mean, the hospitality and tourism industry, as decimated as it was during the summer.
Yeah.
It's going to be literally non-existent.
And like if we kind of play out the ripple effect here, there's some industries that we might not have even been able to think of that are going to be effective. So my message is the programs are there for a reason. If you qualify, take advantage, not take advantage of the system, but utilize it. But utilize that system. It is there for that reason, because this might be the difference between actually surviving a second wave and getting through it, or not,
or starting at zero again.
Exactly. So be diligent about checking those numbers, to have a good dialogue with your accountant to make sure that if you're entitled to this. Also, I'll mention that the CEBA, which is the Canadian Emergency Business Account, is being expanded. Folks, if I do have a video, if I can plug my...
we'll put a link in the bottom of this bottom of this video so you can use that, and we'll have reference to all of your stuff.
So just on my website, you can sign up for the video email list, and I do release constant news on the program so that small business owners can stay informed of this stuff. So,
well, you're one of the very few firms that actually makes videos available to your clients through social media platforms, which I applaud you for, because very few people take the time and effort to be able to educate people. And I followed it. I follow it. So, good. Nick, you need to do more of that yourself from your office when it comes to your vehicles, man. Like, if I'm going to buy a vehicle, you should be doing some featurettes on what's going on with the new technology.
Oh, we for sure do. We do. Oh, yes.
Well, like we said, like those Jeep trucks there. Ooh, I need to see you plugging those. Those are candy to watch.
Those are sharp.
That's right.
Those are sharp looking vehicles, man. Yeah, they really are.
They really are.
Big time. I had one of the gals that actually graduated before you guys, Sean's graduating class. She actually asked about that. Oh, and, but it's and the other thing I'd say to entrepreneurs is, don't be afraid to start over. Yeah. We in society sometimes have so much pride. Losing's a part of it. Mark Cuban, who's the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, and I watched a documentary on him, and he's part owner of 150 different companies, and he says, listen, in those 150 different companies, I lose. I don't win in every situation. There's companies that go bankrupt because they're great ideas, but they don't work, or it's a seed that was planted. We thought it would happen, and it didn't. I think when you get to that level of billionaire or multi-millionaire, it's just part of the process. When you're a small business owner, you have so much pride in your one business that you own. You're so afraid to say, hey, I've done everything I could do. That's when you sit down with, accounting firms that have the expertise and say, you know what? There's a different strategy. It may not be what you want, but it's the right thing to do. And that's part of those solutions. Yeah, it's not always, it's not the only one you always should take, but it is part of it, John, because we're in the most difficult time of what we're dealing with economically. And since we've been kids, I can tell you that.
Well, yeah. And I think that sometimes, and small business owners are notorious for this, me included sometimes, we get in a certain mindset. We think this is the way it's supposed to be. This is how it is. And that can be very dangerous, right? That can lead us down, to get off the rails when, always thinking strategically. Think of business like a game of chess. That will never end, by the way.
Right.
Like there is no result in small business. I'm sorry to say, there's no finish line. The name of the game is surviving.
It is.
As long as you can in the game, and and understanding that every month, every quarter, every year, you need to sit down and think out a couple moves ahead, right? And when I say a couple of moves, think a couple of moves, think the next 10 years, right?
And know that your opponent,
is
which
doing
is civilization, like that, Nick, Rick, right now with your business, it's hard. You can even strategize that something's going to happen.
No.
And then that doesn't happen.
And you know what? It won't. Here's the funny thing is the planning itself, none of these plans will work out anywhere near the way you're thinking about it. It's the process of thinking those couple of moves ahead, right, that keeps you in the game.
That's right.
And understanding that you cannot lay a 10-year plan. Like I say this all the time. Lay out the 10-year plan and then revisit it every quarter.
Yeah, we do that. We do that in sports.
Yeah,
we want to win the World Series,
right?
And then work backwards,
right?
So, 4 years from now, we want to win the World Series. And now let's work backwards from where we are now. Yep. Essentially, what you do in business,
and that 10-year story, it's going to be changing.
It can change.
That's all right.
I mean, look at your industry, Nick, compared to you when your grandfather owned that company, to the amount of money you guys invest in technology on an annual basis.
It's not even in the same football stadium. It's honestly, and it's changing. It's going quicker. Yeah, I mean, it's changing almost on a bi-quarterly basis now. The technology that's coming through, because society is changing. They're wanting more green initiatives. They're wanting more green technology. They're wanting things to make their lives easier and more convenient. And these major companies have to come up with that. And there's stuff coming out all the time. It's quite an impressive industry, to be honest with you.
It is. It's not a brick and mortar company anymore. It really isn't. It's and I've seen vehicles that have been on the road for 60 years down in Cuba, and they look brand new. I mean, but the technology certainly has been dramatically different.
But think about
no airbags in those cars now.
If we think about you're mentioning an industry that what they get is that the first thing we got to always be doing is exciting our clients, exciting them. But understand that what excites them this year is an expectation next year.
That's exactly right.
Right? Backup cameras, power windows, air conditioning.
Absolutely.
Like these are all base items that would have been absolute luxurious, only Cadillacs. And
that's right.
Right? So those are expectations now. And so small business is no different. Like you always got to be thinking, how can I excite and take it up that next level? You never rest on, well, we did this, and then, always like, what's going on? the SWOT analysis, like
Absolutely.
strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats. Like these aren't just textbook academic things. These are the things you should be looking at quarterly. Like what is going on? What are my competitors doing? What am I doing better? How am I standing apart? Right?
Drew Brees talked about that. He's the quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. He said the moment you become complacent is the moment you start falling behind.
That's right.
It's just, and that's not just in sport. That's in life. It's in business. It's in relationships.
I mean,
it's in your marriage. I mean, really, when you become complacent in your marriage, it's the moment you start falling behind. You should always push, to be innovative and creative and find those new ways and to make your spouse happy. It's, and if the wives of all three of us are listening to this podcast, we encourage you to be innovative and creative. So,
and I mean, if we want to find a silver lining in COVID, and the silver lining is very, very thin. Like there's not a lot of positive, but personally speaking, I'm sure it would resonate with a lot of small business owners. It forced us to make these plans. It forced us to sit down, for many years. Oh, I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to do that. Well, this year we didn't have a choice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It forced us to sit down, and hopefully it created some positive, good habits with small business owners that they now understand how important foresight and planning and strategic planning is in their own businesses.
I think businesses in general, the think tankers are more prevalent now than ever before. You need to sit down and really put together a strategy. And that's really what you're emphasizing, John, but think tankers, you need people that are going to sit down and say, how do we make ourselves better in a multitude of different ways? But if we multiply that result, business by business, town by town, province by province, throughout the whole country, it's a better Canada.
Yep.
And we stay number one.
Yeah.
So taxes, yes, and that was the subject today is where do they come from? Why do we pay it? How do we, become more efficient with it? How do we make people more accountable? But I think if you look at and evaluate where we're at as a country, we're not doing too bad of a job as entrepreneurs and citizens of the country. I will encourage our politicians, our representatives that are elected as elected officials. We need some more accountability. We need to hold a standard of excellence at a governmental level that is transferable from government to government, 4 years to 4 years to 4 years, so that we see a plan long-term that we know keeps our country in a position.
Longer than 4 years.
That's exactly.
Or 5 years.
Exactly. And we don't restart and redirect. And because I think all politicians always say, this is terrible, we'll make it better. Mm-hmm. That's terrible, we'll make it better. Well, how are we number one in a place to live in the world? That means we've held a high standard.
That's right.
However, how do we make it better as Canadians wearing the same jersey? That's why I think, I said this to Michael last week, I really believe individual representation at a provincial and federal level would make our government even more accountable and stronger. Mm-hmm. I don't know, you remember Garth Turner?
No.
Garth Turner used to be a financial planner for the Canadian government, and he was elected, 20 years ago, and he always questioned the PC party. He was with the Progressive Conservative Party, but he was one of those guys that always asked a lot of questions. Mm-hmm. They threw him out of the party. Because he asked too many questions. So you can't just toe the rope as a political party. Yeah. And I'm not being disrespectful to our wonderful MP that lives here. Yeah. I mean, Bernadette Jordan is our elected official on her second term, but how in the world do you become the Minister of Fisheries when you have no expertise in it at all? Like, Nick, that's like saying, I want you to go be a mechanic in the back shop.
That's not going to happen.
Right? But you've never ever been educated in that field.
That's right.
How do you ever in politics become the Minister of the Fisheries industry, which is one of the most important industries in our province, and not have any experience in it? How would you qualify for that? But in politics, if you toe the rope, you're given those positions because you're loyal to the party. If it's done at an individual representation level, you find the most qualified person in the country to be the Minister of Fisheries. The most qualified one, not the most loyal one.
Well, we had an Attorney General that tried that and didn't fare out so well.
Absolutely. And I think if you take people with strong skill sets in those areas. And I don't know if we'll ever be able to accomplish political reform because it's not easy. But if we did, my personal belief is that direction makes everyone more accountable. Mm-hmm. And when you're a business owner, if you're a consultant or a coach, because in your case, you're not a chartered accountant. You're more of a chartered accountant / coach, mentor.
Totally.
Right?
Yep.
And we need more of those people at a governmental level. Yeah. That's what we need. We really do. So you want to run for politics?
No, I can almost, I'll never say never, but I guarantee no. But I will always be paying attention to the policies of the party. I will always vote. I will, ask lots of questions.
Yeah.
Right. That's our duty.
And our kids,
100%.
the next generation,
let our
your
kids see this.
And let's get into different forms of education. Let's be more innovative. Let's push the envelope. Let's be a standard and a leader in the world. Yep. 100%. Canada. I just love saying it. And we are looked upon in Cuba as the greatest country in the world because they admire us so much. Because we support them so much and we're so empathetic to the rest of the world. Mm-hmm. And kudos to everyone that's listening to the podcast. I mean, if you're from another country, you should probably consider immigrating here. Yes. But the country is.
By the way, we're number one in the world in quality of life. We're number 2 in the world overall.
And score.
Out of adventure, citizenship, cultural influence, entrepreneurship, heritage, movers, everything.
Yeah.
It's kind of like we got this little secret that we don't want to tell everybody.
That's right. That's right.
The snow is a big part of, well, we have great seasons. too.
I've been watching a lot of the rallies going on down in the States and a lot of the city, except for Florida, but a lot of the cities, they're wearing gloves and mittens and there's snow coming down. So, this whole,
another reason why Nova Scotia is so attractive is we get that
the Gulf Stream.
Coming up that kind of knocks us down. That we only get a few storms a year.
Right.
So.
That's right.
Not that we're saying you guys should move to Nova Scotia, but we'd love to have innovative and creative people move here.
A lot of folks are coming here.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah, I see that a lot. Getting lots of new clients from all over the states, Ontario. It's crazy.
You can.
What was it? The percentage of houses that were sold here or something?
Oh yeah,
it's astronomical.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I could have sold this house 10 times over.
A non-bricks and mortar business.
Yeah.
The technology's here.
Well, that's
that's right.
When I it was 8 years ago or 9 years ago when I ran for political office here to be a town councilor, I was probably before my time. I was saying things to senior citizens that was just right over their heads. Like I was talking about being innovative and creative, where I would like to bring mom or dads back home, one mother or one father back home, and open small businesses in the home where you can raise your children. You can see them go to school. You can see them when I came home from school, I saw my mother every day. Yeah. Every day. Yeah. And I don't know how much value I can place on that right now.
Well, it's funny you say another silver lining is my kids come home every day to me with dinner cooked.
Absolutely, right? I mean, how much? Now, it depends on how good of a cook you are, John. But
you think I'm a good rock star? Wait till you taste my cooking.
All right, man.
It's good.
Okay. But I mean, you think about that I wanted to create innovation where almost like the Michelin effect at a home level. Yeah. So Michelin outsources a lot of their product to the world, and we have a great industry in our community that employs a lot of people. It's the largest in our community. That's right. Well, break it down into smaller components and put them in the households. And let's train 300, 400, 500 people to run businesses out of their home, but outsource the product or services to the world. Right? Take that income, bring it back into our community to circulate in our economy. When I said that, they said, this guy's an alien, right? And I understand that because we always talk about the same subjects in politics. Taxes, roads, and hospitals. It's the same old subject all the time. Yeah. But we need to get more innovative in that area too. That's right. We need people that are going to, and that's why my conversation with Michael Gray's come in, because he really was. And David Mitchell has done a great job in regards to being more innovative. Yeah. We're not just, that little town that seems to always say, we're never going to get anywhere. I think we're pushing in the right direction and creating momentum. That's right. And the people that are innovative and creative in our community needs to step up to the plate, no pun intended when it comes to baseball, but that we can all be on that team. and wear that jersey.
I should share. There's some cool things going on right now. I'm actually part of a team of there's 9 other community leaders,
Right.
And we're actually in January, kicking off the Regional Entrepreneurial Accelerator Program
Love
that's
it.
put on by MIT.
Love it.
And what that does is we're going to look for, entrepreneurial opportunities throughout our region, and that being Lunenburg County, Queens, for opportunities to ignite entrepreneurship, to take a look at what our assets are, and that's really exciting. We were supposed to go down to MIT, and it got thrown out.
Oh, look at the
COVID,
situation.
so-
Yeah.
So it's all Zoom, but some of the folks on this team are very talented folks, and we're really excited
Good.
about that. So more to come, as we progress. But
Well, as it does progress, I mean, because I know you're interested in possibly starting your own podcast, but you're welcome here anytime to talk about those things
Thanks,
that come
yeah.
up, because it's
Yeah.
it's about once again informing people.
yeah,
That's right.
It's about that's one of the messages that we wanted to portray as a family living in this community, is that we have some dynamic people that live here.
yeah, we do.
You always watch, the Joe Rogan Experience or Ben Shapiro and these guys, and they're always putting these movie stars, actors, political figures that are at the international level that you see on television. We have some incredibly talented people where we live,
Yeah.
and that's what our message is. Global topics from a community perspective,
Yeah.
because we have leaders and innovators where we live that should be put on stage, that should be applauded and really given an opportunity to have a voice and really show what we have to offer as Nova Scotians. And I'm really excited about the progress that we've already made. It's been an incredible journey. And one of the things as an entrepreneur that I think we all can agree on is that we always seem to think about the destination, but really it's about the journey.
Yep.
A great book that I read last year said, your entrepreneurial or even, through sports or life is, you're going up this mountain and there's challenges and storms, but you get to the top of the mountain, right? And you go, I've made it. I'm there. So what do you see when you get there?
the next mountain.
The next mountain.
Yeah.
The next
I guess
mountain.
unless you're on what's the Kilimanjaro? What's the biggest mountain? Everest. Then you're like, shit. Guess I'm taking up skydiving.
That's the truth. It's the next mountain, John. And it's just so the journey's important.
It is.
We cherish the journey. And I think if we continue
Mount
to cherish
Everest.
the journey, then we're going to be,
He's a good producer.
oh, he's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
He
better
thinks
keep
on
him.
his feet, man. He thinks
Wow.
on his feet,
Yeah.
right? So once again, guys, thank
Yeah,
you so
thanks.
much for coming into the studio
Congrats on the
today.
new
And
podcast, man.
Yeah,
This
we're
is
gonna-
the real deal.
Little
Real
itty
deal.
bitty Bridgewater, Nova Scotia. But
That's
it just goes to show that you can duplicate success anywhere in the world.
100%.
That's really what it's all about. And I'm glad that, and the door is always open and the microphones are always on for you guys for sure. So
That's great.
John Swain, Nick Saunders here on our Weekly Woodcast with Dennis and Michael Woodworth. And we'll look forward to hearing you guys next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Take care. We'll talk to you soon.
See you guys.
Thanks.